Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy. Playing some No Man's Sky. What's going on, people? If you want to, feel free to join and we can talk about whatever you want. EFILism, antinatalism, or anything really in general. But mainly I'm kind of focused on like philosophy and ethics, what we ought to do and ought not to do in terms of other people's pain and pleasure, good and bad things to other people. God damn, does it take forever to get across this fucking star system? And I fucking ran out of juice. Back at it again. Transmitted location. Okay. $600 that way. Oh, it says a moon. Cool. It's low gravity. Is this just rusted metal everywhere on this planet? Sodium deposit. Okay. There's no copper, though. That's kind of disappointing. I'm gonna have to go to a different planet to find copper. Yeah, this is a universe simulator type of game, so there's quite a bit you can explore in this game. In fact, there's more you can explore in this game than there's time in anybody's life span, so you could literally have every person on this planet play this game and try to explore the game, and you would never be able to explore everything. So, it's a pretty beefy game. Okay. Oh, you're playing No Man's Sky? Yeah, I'm playing No Man's Sky, my dude. How's it going? No Man's Sky is pretty, it's kind of fun. It's one of those games where it's like, if I don't really know what to do, I'm just like, fuck it, I'll play No Man's Sky. It's snowy out, otherwise I'd be doing some activism, marching on the streets, being like, yo, abortion's cool, life's not cool, but unfortunately, it's snowing out. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not particularly like the most fun game in the world, but it's like Minecraft, but in space. Space Minecraft. Yeah, I think I'll steal their little eggs. Please don't. Hey, howdy. The AI in this game is absolutely trash. I'm not gonna lie. They need. Oh, I lied. That one just dove at me. But not gonna lie, the AI is pretty garbage in this game. Like, you can pretty much just steal these eggs from under them. They need to add more void characters. Found out recently that there's like some weird glitch in this universe that's called the void, which is what makes these creatures here try to return everything to death, despawn everybody, you know. Have you heard of people talking about environmental collapse? I have. The Doom Wizard, he was talking about how apparently we have 10 to 20 years until the planet just goes to complete shit, and basically 10 years are going to be at shit, and then 20 years, oh, okay, this launched me. Well, but yeah, he's been talking about how like the planet's basically fucked within 20 years. I'm not sure I buy that. I really hope it's the case though, because I'm an ethicist, so I basically want everything to go extinct, because extinction is not bad for the ones that go extinct. It's only bad for the things that remain. So if everything's extinct, well, then that just means there's no more suffering. So I'm pro that happening. I just think it's quite unfortunate that there's going to be so much suffering during the process of it, you know, because environmental collapse isn't going to be a peaceful process. So it's going to be, oh, fucking A. Get away from me, angry aliens. Okay. It's a shame, but it's like one of those things where I wish humans would just step up on their fucking game and, you know, do extinction, but on purpose, like purposeful, meaningful extinction, where we actually try to like cleanse the planet in a peaceful way instead of having everything die slowly through like starvation and environmental collapse and heat exhaustion, not being able to drink water. You know, like rather just like, you know, we just benevolently nuke the planet. You know, just get it over with. You know, instead of having this drawn out 20-year slow decay where we're basically just living corpses. You know, but hey, it is what it is. Make do. I'm basically a mouse just out here just trying to convince people not to reproduce, you know, that way we don't, well, I believe it's wrong for people to reproduce for the most part. It's just creating unnecessary pain. So it's generally wrong. The only time it would be okay to reproduce would be if you could guarantee that you would essentially have an offspring that would reduce suffering more than it generates. But I think that's a very huge risk. But if the planet's going to go to shit in 20 years, I mean, we won't need to have a future generation to, you know, wipe out animals. So that's a good thing. That also just means every single person being brought into existence is unjustified to be brought into existence. And they're also going to be basically useless. They're basically, the planet's already fucked. Everything is going to go extinct based off of what Doom Wizard says. So, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, we're basically just bringing people into the heat slaughter. You know, just basically just diagnosing everybody of heat strokes and death via like CO2 inhalation. You know, or like wars over water. So yeah, it's not looking positive in terms of the future of environmental collapse based off of what I've heard. It's basically like when Doom Wizard says, which is like the best thing and yet the worst thing at the same time. It's like worst thing because it's like our planet's uber fucked, but good in the sense that like our suffering is gonna like be like eliminated rather quickly. And then there's like the slow boil, which is what scientists typically say in the mainstream. They're like, yeah, we got to like 2080, and then the reefs are gone, and then, you know, a little bit after that, like once the ocean life collapses, everything else is collapsing, and yeah. So basically, like 2100 is like what most people are talking about. Like by 2100 are basically where Doom Wizard's saying we're going to be in like 10 years. So I don't know which one is right. Either way, we're fucked. So, you know, The way I look at it is, ain't much of a positive future in terms of anything. I don't really give a shit in terms of like my job, the economy, all that stuff. I'm just like, come on, guys, like we just need to like reduce suffering, try to take care of each other, you know, a little bit. But when it comes down to it, the future's a dead end. Like it's basically just trying to slow our brakes down so that when we crash into that fucking wall, it doesn't hurt as hard. You know what I mean? Like that's basically our job now, is just to try to slow down. We're gonna hit the wall no matter what. We just have to make sure it's not, we don't shatter every bone in our fucking body when we hit it. You know, like at least try to do that. That's my metaphor. I think the mission agent's right here. And mission rated. Do unethical acts. I wonder if I have pirate already. I think I do. No, I might have got rid of pirate. Whatever, it is what it is. Nope, I already got it. Nice. Oh, is it going to tell me to deliver it? Oh my god. I have to go and deliver it to the fucking terminal. You know what? Why not? Yeah, once you beat this game, I don't really know what you do. I guess you just kind of do whatever. But frankly, that's kind of, it's really reflective of life. You know, like once you realize that there's nothing much to do, it's like, what do you do? It's very much like life. Hence why No Man's Sky is just a reflection of reality. It truly is the simulation that it was meant to be. Really gets down into the gritty of how boring things are. Deliver the 250 pyrite, of course. Here you go, big man. Whoever needs that. You know what? Let's something a little bit more interesting. Unless you're a big fan of No Man's Sky. If you like the aesthetic of this, let me know and I'm going to keep playing. But otherwise, I'm thinking Apex Legends or Overwatch, potentially. Rusted Metal Deposit. What the hell's that? No. So are you part of the antinatalist EFIList community as well, or Apex a lot recently? Hell yeah. I need to. I'm getting pretty damn close to unlocking another hero, and well, legend. I'm thinking about going for Catalyst. I think that's her name. The one that makes like the blue goo, the goo everywhere and the goo walls. Because I kind of like defensive heroes, to be honest. Legends. Yeah, pretty much. So you're pretty much an Ephilis slash antinatalist. Are you vegan also, or storage augmentation? Jason Myers, what's your favorite ERB battle? Dude, this guy's always asking me questions about video games. Okay, let me see. Trying to be Foley. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. ERB battle. What the fuck is that? ERB battle. Urban Dictionary. Hopefully that knows what an ERB battle is. The simultaneous making out with two people of the opposite sex. Hey, dude. What? Epic rap battles of history? Oh, epic rap battles. What's your favorite epic rap battles of history? I haven't watched that in like a long time. I don't think I've ever really watched many of them. I guess it was like one of Abraham Lincoln. I remember being a thing, and by the fact that I remember it, I guess that means it's my favorite, seeing it's the only one to remember. So by default, it wins. I mean, congrats, Honest Abe. You've done it. You've stopped racism in meme culture just as you did in life. Truly beautiful. Okay. What is this saying? It's like saying there's something. Maybe it's in here. Hey, you. Family for script. Oh, he wants to get hired. No, you remain unemployed. Dumbass Velkeen. Warmongers. All of them. It's funny because you think the Velkeen are a bunch of warmongers when you first like play this game, which they are, but the thing is, it turns out that like Gek were actually like enslaving them, and the Gek were a bunch of like fucking nerdy ass lizards that like just like mining and like making money and stuff, basically capitalists. And yeah, it's like it's basically they were like America, and then they got like turned into like I don't know, like fucking China or something. What's your favorite China legal freedom? Look it up. Uh, Actually, I did a stream a couple days ago on it might have been yesterday actually. Now I think about it, and I was watching some Shay Illegal Freedom. I don't know if I have like a favorite video or anything, or like I don't know what you mean by what's your favorite, but in regards to him himself, he's pretty cool, or they pretty cool. I don't know what their gender is. They are pretty cool, and all of his friends seem wild. And like honestly, the fact that they're train surfing and shit, that's just fucking dope. Like honestly, like the aesthetic of like that type of lifestyle is alluring. Like imagine just being like fuck jobs. I'm just gonna take a GoPro and make a YouTube channel and just hop freight and live out in the woods and shit like that. Like, yo, Loki. Favorite video. I haven't watched a whole ton of his videos, but I'm a kind of a fan of his ones where he went into, I think, Chernobyl. Just because the fact that it's like it's Chernobyl, like no one. I mean, there are videos of people in Chernobyl, but it's like technically like kind of like a radiation zone or whatever. So like there's like abandoned buildings like everywhere, and the whole place is just in decay. So I kind of like his Chernobyl exploration videos. They're pretty cool. Yeah, I can pull up some of his videos. Chai. Yeah, here we go.
It's incredible. We just told the driver to stop here. There's a metro here. We're gonna take that and meet Anton. He's gonna be our guide or whatever for the Chernobyl trip. Me and Checkmate, we're both running off of 1 hour of sleep. Feels terrible. It's like 8:30 right now. We got about a half.
They're straight up trekking through the woods off the guide. Gets to be like nighttime. There's fucking breaking into the random ass building.
Damn.
This is normal Ukrainian house. Welcome.
We got some loot. Boy.
Yeah, we can rest. The ticks are fucking annoying and all the other bugs. Yeah, that's the problem here. It's about 500 meters till we make it out of this bitch.
Don't make it out of this bit. Straight up, bro. It looks so cool though, just like this abandoned ass areas and all that, just open, nothing around for miles.
Right there, the furthest, biggest electricity tower thing. But
We got to print that before sundown.
Yes.
yes,
Imagine that, bro. Just saying, fuck life. I'm gonna just go into the Chernobyl exclusion zone and call it a day. You know, like this is my life for like a week. You know, I'm just gonna
this is where I
trek
slept.
the fucking exclusion
In
zone
that
illegally
is the building where
and
no
make
one can
stonks
compare
while
to
doing it.
counter ourselves
Like
with
that
Google
is
Things
life.
we might think of.
That's the peak of living. I mean, I'm not saying like that's a good life. I'm a negative utilitarian, so all life is shit. But like, still, if I had to choose a life, like a lifestyle, and do it successfully, I would just be like one of these fuckers that just straight up wild. But unfortunately, I can't even do that anymore. I have a duty to reduce suffering, so you know, the lifestyle of an activist is my path. Yeah, it's so fucking cool. I mean, if straight up like a fucking like gust of wind would just knock me off, I'd be like, goodbye, I guess. Last thoughts, just like, well, you know, this is good of you. Just splat.
So cool.
Yeah, me too, bro. That's what I said.
Let's go down. Oh, this is a wobbly fucking thing.
Yeah, I don't know how the fuck you would climb up that, bro. Anything for views, again. Just kidding.
Like, if somebody told me they're tourists coming here or whatever, the only way I would know is because the roads have no leaves, but what time they come and blah blah, how to run, water to boil. Taking a nice fucking breath. 9:45. In about, I would say maybe.
But yeah, I mean, if you like the vibe this guy's channel gives, I highly recommend subscribing to Shy. Don't know if the person's watching me is the person Jason Meyer who recommended Shy, or if it's Kaz. But if it's Kaz, yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Shay, highly recommend it. His channel's interesting and unique. I mean, I don't really watch many of his videos, but occasionally I'll just be like, yeah, I'm in a mood to watch some guy literally ride on top of a train and like jump between cars. Like, why the fuck not? You know, it's just one of those wild type of things. It's just like I would never do that. So like watching someone just fucking surf a train is just a change in pace. Where's my phone? Should check to see if they got back to me. Nope, not yet. Cool, man. So, Kaz, you said you're planning to go vegan pretty soon here? I mean, or fully vegan, I should say. You said you plan to go fully vegan. I mean, what's preventing you from going fully vegan at the moment? I see you put a StreamYard link. Yeah, you can feel free to join using the link if you want. I can repaste it just because we've talked a little bit. May as well put it in the bottom there. If anybody wants to join, feel free to. We can talk about whatever the hell you want. Plus, I mean, my main topics are ethics, philosophy major. So I kind of focus on ethics, so what we ought to do and ought not to do in terms of like other people's lives, like other people's pain and pleasure. So, if we want to talk about ethics, hell yeah. If we want to talk about anything in your life, my life, I'm pretty good at giving advice. As the channel name is, Antisocial Ethicist. I do have highly psychopathic tendencies, so I tend to give fairly neutral and positive advice, like advice that can help you out, and it's going to be unbiased as fuck. You wanted to ask something? Go for it. Shoot, Kaz. And by ask anything, I mean like literally ask anything. I want to post some stuff about antinatalism, but I don't want it to come off sounding judgmental or rude. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. I mean, if you want to come off non-judgmental and non like you're not taking a hard stance on anything. Oh, Seb's here, awesome. Hey, how's it going, Seb?
Hey, it's my show now.
You can talk about as much as you want. Like honestly, take over if you want to. Like I'm completely down with that. I don't talk very much when I don't have very much input. But
I see it has been on for 45 minutes already.
yeah, and most of it's just me kind of sitting around, playing No Man's Sky for the most part. Yeah, but I'm gonna quickly respond to Kaz. Kaz, yeah. I guess I wouldn't be too worried. I wouldn't care if I were you. I'd try not to care at least when it comes to the judgment you might receive. Just because I mean, people will disagree with you about almost everything, and people will find like hostility in almost anything. So when it comes down to it, you just kind of have to say what you believe and come off as authentic. If you come off as authentic, like you're not trying to offend anybody, you're just trying to like speak your truth, then I think you'll be okay. You know what I mean? I mean, I literally talk about like how I have like homicidal ideation and like random shit on this channel. Like honestly, if I can get away with talking about that without getting canceled, like you'll be fine. I mean, then again, this is a new channel. I might get canceled someday. Someone might get a little bit angry at me for being myself, but you never know. I just say be confident, be proud, be loud. Try to spread the good word. You're in the right. So as long as you know you're not wrong. You're just wrong in someone else's mind. It's the lyrics from a good song that I like. I know I'm not wrong. I'm just wrong in someone else's mind. Anyways, Seb, how has life been treating you on the subjective level?
It's been going good. A few hours ago, I had a jam with a fellow negative utilitarian on YouTube called Sohar Kohavi. Not sure if you've heard of that guy,
I have.
but he had a couple of debates on negative utilitarianism. He debated Dr. Avi once, and
Did you do a pretty good job, or I mean,
maybe Sohar did. I didn't watch it,
uh,
but he probably did good.
I mean, it's hard to argue against negative utilitarianism. I mean, it's pretty, in my opinion, is an obvious reality that pain just has way more like intensity in terms of the heights of pain in comparison to pleasure. Outside of that, even just in like normal value sensations, like how humans interact with each other, we typically value pain far more than pleasure and believe we have obligations to reducing pain, and we don't believe typically we have obligations to produce pleasure. on average. So
And if one is a regular utilitarian, one can come to very weird conclusions. I feel
yeah,
like
exactly.
one thinks that pleasure can outweigh pain. But then again, I don't think that just because something seems absurd, yeah, one can argue that if one believes in this, one has to come to these kinds of conclusions, and that can seem absurd. But for some, antinatalism can seem absurd. So just because something seems absurd doesn't make it that good of an argument, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think the flaws in utilitarianism is just I don't know. Once you understand negative utilitarianism, the appeal of utilitarianism goes away. I think because I used to be a utilitarian for a long time, but then once you have all these these dilemmas, utilitarian dilemmas, which you can usually answer pretty well, but it's a very pro-life ideology, and once you kind of realize like this whole evolution game is going on, and that like it's all pretty pointless, and that we're not really fighting for anything. Once you kind of like ascribe a value to like pain, and I think you recognize like the Benatarian asymmetries of like there's no reason to generate pleasure for another being. Like they're not being deprived of anything if you don't generate pleasure for them. And once you come to that point, then I think negative utilitarianism has more of an appeal than utilitarianism, just because of the asymmetries for the most part. Those asymmetries really have a strong backing towards negative utility over utility.
Yes, um, so have had like what I think his earliest video that is on his channel is like an is called "Why Everyone Should Be a Negative Utilitarian."
Hmm. Wait a second. I think I've maybe subscribed to this guy. Can you type out his channel name in the comments really quickly, just so I
Yes.
can look him up? Awesome.
Yeah, we tend to jam on Zonobus and stuff. It's this VST one can use for the collaborations and
Awesome. Vegetarian. Oh yeah, this channel. I love this channel. Yeah. He was one of the first people that I've discovered negative utilitarianism from, and his video "Why Everybody Should Be Negative Utilitarian" basically convinced me that I should switch from utilitarianism over to negative utilitarianism. It just that plus the Benatarian asymmetry arguments just together kind of like it was enough to push me over the flip to being like, yeah, I think negative utility has a little bit more sense to it than utility does. Though consequentialism in general makes a lot more sense than deontology. So anything in the consequentialist department is way more valid, I know for sure, than deontology. But negative utilitarianism so far seems to make the most sense.
yeah, and tend that's also the same guy I tend to jam with frequently too. Uh, So it's nice that yeah, I didn't realize that's like the one of the first guys who heard negative utilitarianism from and stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with him. I mean, I don't know if he'd be have much disagreement with me. Is he an EFIList also, or
Yes.
awesome? Yeah. Then I don't think we disagree with much. I mean, as I'm sure he's pretty much a consequentialist because he's a negative utilitarian. There's like, yeah, I'm sure we'd basically agree on everything. Then, I mean, I know some utilitarians that are negative utilitarians have a slight thing that I disagree with, which is the fact that some of them prioritize torturous suffering over just utility in general. There's a channel I think called forgot what. Let me pull it up. Your videos. What's his name? Click playlists. Playlist for activism. Daily negativity. I have some disagreements with daily negativity. He's a utilitarian also, but basically he has a stance that we're like there's certain levels of suffering that one cannot consent to no matter what, and he basically has like a DL on a threshold type of belief when it comes to it. Like once you get to a certain amount of pain, it's always immoral and always wrong, and you ought not to inflict pain on someone. Essentially, if it reaches a certain point, even if you could prevent more suffering than what you would cause. And I have disagreements with that because for me, I feel like a logical person who's fully aware and informed would always, as a utilitarian, accept the pain. They should accept the pain, like if they know that it'll prevent like a further greater pain. So I feel like it's just like we have disagreements and like implications of like utility, but in general, I think I have most negative utilitarians. I pretty much am fully in agreement with almost everything they believe. So we probably get along.
I don't think anybody could. It's going to be hard to agree to something like that. But if there was this choice, it seems like an easy thing for me. Like if someone could be burned alive for like 100 people to be prevented from going to hell for
Yeah,
eternity, then it's better for that person to be burned alive. Obviously,
yeah,
seems like a very
exactly.
easy answer.
Yeah, to me, exactly. It's like the idea that he has is like at some point you could like maybe push that over to like like what if it's not like hell? What if it's just like one person burning for one person burning, and then it hurts quite a bit to prevent two people from burning, like is it worth it to inflict torture upon like one person to prevent torture from two people? Like would those two people even want to like allow torture to occur just to prevent their own torture? Like those are a couple of questions that I think he has problems with. Like when it gets to like the torturous level, it just seems like it's too much, for anybody to bear. But yeah, I 100% agree with exactly what you said. Like it's just like no, no one should have to bear it. But the unfortunate scenario is that like if you are in that example where it's like prevent one person from getting lit or prevent two people from getting lit, you're gonna have to choose to prevent two people from getting lit on fire. It's just that's utility, in my opinion. But
And I guess the argument he would make, I might like misrepresent it, but perhaps he would say something like that they couldn't accept being burned alive and sacrificing themselves for two people. But then again, the two people they wouldn't they wouldn't want to sacrifice themselves either.
yeah, exactly. I mean, assuming everything's all completely equal, like no one wants to be sacrificed to the fire, so it's just a numbers game essentially. Which is why for me, yeah, it's just as simple as being a numbers game. Like once you realize that someone else's $5 is equal to your $5 and their pain is equal to your own pain, it shouldn't matter who is experiencing the suffering. It should just matter like what degree the suffering is, and that's what I think essentially. So you should always try to prevent the greater suffering. But yeah, utilities is weird. Some people, some I've heard solid arguments that for normal utilitarianism. I just don't think it's as strong because I don't think you can really prove that pleasure is existing outside of like the illusionary sense, or at least not in like a prominent way where it's like a majority of our sensations are like an actual pleasure, like an actual positive sensation, like without like significant cost to it, you know. Hey, how's it going, Marco? My cat just hopped on the beanbag. Get over here, you big blob. Look at this guy. Adorable.
A nice cat.
This is a cutie.
Something I realized is that after getting into the negative utilitarian community, one hears. I do think that I know that the negative utilitarians they use the word suffering way more than the average person would. One hears that a lot, and like the regular people aren't as occupied with thinking about suffering. I think they want to have a good time most of the time and not think about stuff like that. But but that's like the thing that matters the most, preventing suffering, of course.
Yeah, and it's fucked up and sad because yeah, people don't realize that like that is what matters the most, and like what we have to do is like engage in practices that minimize our like suffering production. Yeah, people
In,
just want to have a good time. Cass says. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunately true. People just want to have a good time, and they don't really pay attention to the cost it has in other people. Like if it was only a cost to ourselves, I wouldn't have too much of a problem with it. I'd still say it's illogical that we ought to try to eliminate our own suffering over generating our own pleasure because we're not depriving our futures of anything. I'm an identity nihilist, so I don't think we're like depriving our futures of anything if we were to commit suicide. But the thing is, it's not that. It's not that like we're hurting ourselves. Marco, what are you doing? My cat's just climbing on top of my laptop. Um, but yeah, it's not just the fact that we're causing harm to ourselves. We're causing harms to other beings as well, animals and humans alike. And I don't think that cost is remotely acceptable. We shouldn't be able to pay other people. We shouldn't be able to impose pain on other people just to have pleasure, which is needless in its generation.
there was this talk with on the Do Not Watch channel, and Perpetual Pleasurist was there too. And one of the topics was how like suffering prevention isn't talked about as much in school. Even when I had like an ethics class, I heard all about utilitarianism. I don't think I ever heard once about negative utilitarianism.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
never
I
brought
did.
up.
Maybe I did actually. There's unfortunately, I heard one of the big arguments for against negative utilitarianism is the world exploder argument. Or if one comes to a negative utilitarianist conclusion, one
Yeah,
can say
I don't
one
know
should
how that's an
explode
argument
the
against
world.
it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying what they are saying.
Yeah, it's weird though. Like they have such mindsets against extinction. Like they think like if an ideology leads to the idea of extinction, it inherently is bad, which doesn't make sense to me because it's like what is unnatural about extinction? Everything goes extinct at some point. It's just a matter of time. Like there's no consciousness of the species like desiring life like for the species. It's just individuals that comprise the species that desire to live. And once we understand promortalism and negative utilitarianism and identity nihilism, it becomes extremely obvious that there's really nothing to live for. And even further than that, there's really nothing to ourselves that really matters in a deep sense. So, yeah, I mean, none of those things are talked about in class, and it's a real shame. Like, we talk about like the trolley problem and stuff like that in ethics class, and like what do you do? Do you pull the lever? Do you not pull the lever? But you never talk about the fact that like no, it's not. The reason people think that like you should pull the lever is because it's better to kill one person than it is to kill 5 people to eliminate them from existence, essentially. But in reality, the reason people choose to not pull the lever is because they think inaction is fine. No, that's not the answer. The reason you don't pull the lever is because it's actually better to allow 5 people to cease existing than to allow those 5 people to continue suffering in life. And if you could, it would be better to do the multi-trolley drifting and hit all 6 people, But we don't talk about that in ethics class, Instead it's just like, oh, do you do the inaction and do you just put your hands up and be like, oh, I'm not going to do anything? Or do you have the responsibility to pull the lever? And it's like, no, we actually have a responsibility not to pull the lever. And it's not because of we become committing murder. It's because we have a responsibility to eliminate suffering, which includes, essentially eliminating life if it's unnecessary to keep it alive. So. Which means I probably should have killed that robin this morning, but at the same time, it's a state bird and it'd be illegal for me to kill a robin, so I'm not gonna do it, just in case.
I think a lot of the problems is that even though there are like laws and stuff, a lot of people got stuff wrong of why stuff is bad. A lot of people point to God for the answer for why things are bad. Like God said so, therefore it's bad. And a lot of people also says it's bad because it violates consent, and they feel like they have the basic thing totally wrong about suffering being what is bad. Yeah, so yeah, a lot. I guess most people think so too, but it's not. They have like other reasons in mind for why things are bad. And something I thought about too is that there is like a parent when a parent has a child, they have the full control over what the child believes in, and full control about what it does, what it eats. If they want to do, there are no laws against making the child really fat, for example. And when yeah, I made this song a while ago called "The Three Stages of Truth," which is about that the parents can control the child to believe in what they want them to. What was I going to? Yeah, I feel like I had some other point, and that was that Yes, some natalists says that natalism will win out in the end because an antinatalist they can't really impose some value, some some philosophy on their own children, but natalists can do that. So it's kind of hard to see antinatalism being the majority ever.
100%, yeah. We're always going to be in the minority in terms of belief. What does Cass say? Yeah, man, a lot of kids get religiously indoctrinated. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're always going to be the minority because of religion indoctrinating people into things, and just like it's primarily like conservative values are really hard to get rid of from a culture. Like once it's there, but yeah, I mean, it's worth fighting for, even if we can't ever be the majority. Even if we're always the minority, it's worth the fight for because every life that's prevented from coming into existence is like one of us that is prevented from suffering, essentially. So, I mean, like, I'm a pro mortalist, so I think suicide is a good thing for the one who dies, but it's like, why commit suicide when you could prevent people from coming into existence, you know? Because that's basically like preventing a whole entire you from, suffering. So, yeah, we're never going to be in the minority. We're never going to be in majority. We're going to always be a minority, but our role is still really important, even if we don't have very much power or voice. It's just unfortunate, The duty I wish could be spread out a little bit more, I wish people didn't have to bear so much of a load, but it's, yeah. Unfortunately, we're the only people that can really have a major difference on this earth. I mean, anything you think of that's like most of the scientists and people are fighting for things that are like life promoting, essentially, that promote suffering into the future. Like we cured like what, like the Spanish flu or something. Like we cure the Spanish flu, we vaccinate people. Like that's great in terms of the people who are alive at the time, but it also caused the population of the Earth to explode like massively, and now there's so much more human suffering. I mean, you could say that potentially is a good thing because the amount of people increasing decreases animal life suffering because we turn things into concrete jungles. But even then, it's just like that's not much of a win. It's barely a win. It's like an unintentional win. So, so yeah, it's like even when we're winning, which as Eminem says, like first world countries are in a population decline. So it's like we're not necessarily going to have a majority antinatalists, but we'll have a majority of people I think that are like at some point who are going to be child free, and will be like it's like a personal choice, and there's not going to be procreating because of either like selfish reasons and or like environmental reasons, or just they just won't feel like it, whatever. Too much time on their hands with work and stuff. But yeah, in the first world, the population is on decline. There's not going to be a replacement population, so it's like yeah, there's not going to be a bunch of antinatalists, but we can still convince some people. And even if we don't convince some people, well, we will convince some people, but even if we don't convince a lot of people, we're still technically, in a way, kind of winning by default, just because, like, as we educate people, which we educate more and more people with time, the population rates start to decline. So that's a good thing, at least, you know.
Yeah, I felt like talking a bit about the primordialism. So a few months ago, there was the primordialist subreddit was on the Reddit, and I had some mixed feelings about the primordialist subreddit. Like, yeah, like I think that I highly suspect that David Benatar is a closet primordialist.
He
I think
is.
so because he is.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, if you listen to his Sam Harris and his Jordan Peterson debates really closely and you kind of listen to them side by side, you can tell that he is a pro-mortalist, because I think it's I want to say it was Jordan Peterson that really hammered into him about like why doesn't Epicureanism and pro-mortalism apply, and he basically I think admitted that it doesn't have any, that he can't disprove pro-mortalism, that pro-mortalism probably does apply to some extent or another, but he does. But and then in another interview, I think with Sam Harris, he basically said you don't want to take stances on things that can be like essentially misinterpreted, like pro-mortalism and native utilitarianism have some really strong implications in terms of like what death is and like how bad death is, and like like a bunch of different things, and it can be really easily misinterpreted. So David Ben-Hur explicitly says that he doesn't ever want to like talk on those subjects very much, just because it can be used and weaponized in a negative way. So I believe like if you take those two things, and he's never explicitly said that he's a pro-mortalist, but yeah, it's really obvious that he is a closeted pro-mortalist if you watch the Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson video back to back, in my opinion. If you want, I could show you like the parts in that stream. I'm pretty sure I could probably find it, but
And I also what I was so about the, David Bennett, is he wise for being a closet promotalist? I think he is, because as long as ANs are viewed as like promotalist promotalists, as long as as long as those things are almost viewed as some kind of synonyms by the common person, then if that happens, it's going to be that much harder to convince people of AN.
yeah, I 100% agree. That's why I struggle with my activism a little bit, because I don't know what I should be activizing for. Because it's like I know antinatalism is easier to swallow than EFILism is, and I know veganism's even easier to swallow than both of them. So it's like, what do I advocate for? Do I advocate for veganism? Do I advocate for antinatalism? Should I not even talk about EFILism? But then again, it's like I'm a consequentialist, so it's like it's hard for me to talk about antinatalism in consequentialist terms without kind of implying EFILism, and then people might start being like, well, why don't you just kill yourself? And then if that happens, then it's just like, well, now you kind of brought me into the conversation of pro-mortalism. So it's like, do I just not say what I believe? It's hard. It's hard to be intellectually honest and at the same time, tiptoe around things that you believe are true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the goal shouldn't be honesty. The goal should, like, if one can lie about, like an example, so there are about that line can be good. So if there was this if some Gestapo bastards knocking at the door and asking, are there Jews down in the attic or a cellar or something? Then if one says like, no, no, there aren't any, uh, then that is like a good lie, and this same can apply to like lying about not being a promotalist.
Yeah, I see that. I see your point. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I mean, what do you think in regards to like what Doom Wizard says, and like the whole aspect of like potentially people might not just buy onto like the whole argument in general unless it's like really consistent. Like, do you think, I mean, I think you're 100% right that like antinatalism is easier to convince people of than EFILism. But if antinatalism is missing a bunch of really crucial points, do you think I assume you probably agree with what I think is potentially the horribly tragic case, which is that even if EFILism is more true than antinatalism, people don't really care about what's true. They just care about what like makes them feel good about themselves. And frankly, EFILism has a bunch of hopelessness attached to it in general, of the whole fact that it's really hard to enact. So, do you think? I mean, do you personally think that like we should talk about EFILism, or do you think we should at least and promortalism, or do you think that it's just better off to like not talk about them whatsoever? Because it almost seems like if promortalism is true, like it's worth talking about to some extent or another. But like to what extent you advocate for it, I don't know. That's where it gets complicated really fast.
Yeah, think there are like explaining to someone that evolution isn't like doesn't mean that it's just naturally good. That can be a good thing, of course, and given a yeah, given like some what Inmendum says about an intelligent design and stuff is a good one too, because that can attack their appeal to nature, the thing they do. But really, I tend to not think about. I haven't thought about that stuff for a while, so I haven't come super prepared.
No, that's fair. I mean, I know Humane Hancock has a video called it's something about like something weird. It's called. I know it's about what we're talking about right now. Like we should only advocate for certain topics because if you're viewed as weird or out there, people might take your other stances less seriously just because they disagree with one of your other stances that you hold. And I don't know. I mean, to me, I can understand that, and I understand human psychology is like that, but it just seems like, I don't know, like, if you could change someone's life by, like, preventing, the fact if they're, like, a cancer patient and they're, like, in a massive amounts of suffering, it almost seems like, if they could hear, like, someone be like, yeah, pro-mortalism is, like, the truth. Like, that would be, like, the everything in the world for them. Like, so it's like, it's hard to it's like I know that we have like massively positive effects to like talk about promortalism, but I also know it can push people away from antinatalism and EFILism if people hear about that and just are like, whoa, oh, no way, like there's no way that my pet Marco over here is better off dead. Like there's no way. Look at him, he's adorable. He's adorable and happy and laying in his chair. Like, how is it that Marco here could be better off ceasing existence, And that might turn people away from, like, the ideology. I can completely understand that. But, at the same time, it's like, if it's intellectually consistent, Well, here's the thing. I guess a better question is, do you think promortalism should be only talked about in the academic world, potentially, or?
I think ideally it should only be talked about in secrecy, and I guess I'm also breaking the rule because but there aren't that many people watching, one person watching, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's just one or two people watching. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't know how would you I mean, I think you don't really necessarily need to ever mention promortalism just because it is intuitive. Once you realize negative utilitarianism and identity nihilism, it kind of just falls into place. Because if it's like, if pain matters more than pleasure, and you're not depriving anybody of anything by not bringing him into existence, once you realize identity nihilism is probably true, you kind of realize that you're not depriving your future of anything either by, ending it early and like ceasing existence and entering into like a state of non-existence again. So I think pro-mortalism like follows really, really quickly from just negative utilitarianism in general, but especially if you like realize identity nihilism as well as negative utilitarianism, then pro-mortalism just becomes like a really, really staunch, obvious truth. So it's like, yeah, I guess potentially we might not even have to really bring up the term pro-mortalism. We could just tap dance around the subject and like just talk about negative utilitarianism and identity nihilism. And I think people would come to their own conclusions about it if they realize the truth. I just think it would be a really awkward conversation, if you're trying to avoid talking about pro-mortalism and someone brings up pro-mortalism, like, are you a pro-mortalist? Then it's like you're forced to lie. But if you're already a negative utilitarian and they realize that pro-mortalism is implied by negative utilitarianism, it's kind of hard to deny, that you're a pro-mortalist if they already realize that you're a negative utilitarian. But yeah, as Kat says, it is probably too taboo for people to accept. So it's like a really hard conversation to talk about and be intellectually honest the whole time and not like back yourself into like a corner where like they like are like, ah, you're being inconsistent, bro. Because no one wants to be caught being inconsistent. And promortalism is what happens to be consistent with negative utilitarianism, in my opinion. So I don't want to drop negative utilitarianism because I believe it's fundamentally true to like all aspects of reality. So I don't want to drop negative utilitarianism, because if I do that, then it's kind of dropping consequentialism, which I've heard arguments saying that people should drop consequentialism and just argue from a deontological standpoint, and that by doing that, essentially consequentialism will follow as a result, which is like a major argument for religion, but I disagree with it. I think we should just advocate for what is true and hope that people realize that the truth is worth enacting and pursuing.
So the like so to put it to put perfectly put how hard it is to like convince someone of something like promotalism. If convincing somebody that God is not real is hard, and convincing people that regular antinatalism is hard, then of course convincing someone of promotalism is going to be hard. If one admits to being a promotalist, one is at the same level of a future murderer, which isn't true at all. And they just view someone who could potentially shoot their offspring in the head. That's how one gets viewed, and that's as almost as bad as a reputation one can have.
Yeah, being once you get associated with like infanticide and stuff like that, that's pretty much like the peak of negative association. But all I'm gonna say is I'm really open about my positions. Like how I talk in this live stream is pretty much how I talk in school, minus being open about my homicidal ideation, just because that would be a little uncomfy for everybody around me, make them a little bit nervous and stuff like that, and I don't want to do that to people. Plus, it's just good for my own well-being, not to bring up my mental issues very much in school. So, but I'm very, very open about EFILism and promortalism and veganism and antinatalism and like my whole I'm basically really open about my philosophical opinions in school. And I don't think it's accepted by very many people, but I don't think it's necessarily pushed people away either. I think people have become more accepting of it in general, at least understood that I'm being consistent. I think it's kind of like an exposure thing. I think almost like if you you might not want to bring up promortalism to around people if you're going to just talk to them like a little bit, just one time, because they might just write you off and be like, that guy's crazy, and then like build up their own opinions and like create their own biases. But if you can expose them to promortalism slowly over time, then I think certain philosophies are easier to digest and swallow, if you are exposed to them slowly, you know.
There's also one hidden risk talking about primordialism publicly, and that is that one can be labeled psychotic, I
Yeah.
think. And if one is like drugged up, like with something equivalent to like elephant tranquilizers, and one can only lay down all day and be tired all the time, then one can't do that much good in the world.
I mean, it depends on how psychotic you're being labeled. I mean, I'm labeled with, oh, I forgot what the term is. I think it's major depressive disorder or something like that. But basically, I've been labeled as having depression to the point of having delusional thoughts. Because I talked to a psychiatrist because I want to get diagnosed and figure out why I have like homicidal ideation, just like all these like general fucked up mind type of shit going on. So I'm curious about my diagnosis and like what I am. So I basically went to my psychiatrist and was just like, "Yo, this is the jazz," you know. And they're just like, "Let's talk about your depression. How many meds can we put you on?" And so, you know, I understand that. You know, like you mentioned promortalism to your psychiatrist, and they're basically just going to toss you on antidepressants. And then they're going to ask you, how are the antidepressants working? Are you feeling better? And then I'm just like, Chief, I don't feel any different because I still want to die. Like life is inherently bad. Blah blah blah. Go through my whole spiel argument, you know. And then they're just like, no, life is great. You don't understand. Like there's an imbalance in your brain. You just need to take more drugs. And so they basically put me on antipsychotics for major depressive disorder now.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, I mean, and then they doubled my dose of those as well because it didn't help either. So now I'm on antidepressants and antipsychotics, and I feel no different. It doesn't do
Well,
anything.
that's great. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, like I call it having like Chad receptors. When the receptors are so strong, not even heavy medications can like influence how we feel.
Yeah, I'm Chad receptors, bro. They don't give a fuck. They're just like, I feel like maybe a little bit better, maybe I don't even know. I feel like I don't feel any different. I've been doing a lot of activism recently, so I feel like my mood improvement is really just because I've been doing activism and live streaming and like interacting with people, basically like generating things that you know are meaningful to myself, like actually doing like positive value in the world. So I think that's why I've been feeling like better. I don't think it has anything to do with the antipsychotics. But if it does, I mean, good. But it doesn't change the fact that life is inherently bad, and I just can't push that through my psychiatrist's head. Like, she will not admit that there is such thing as like a life that is like not worth living, even if the person themselves wants to continue on. Like, I was trying so hard to get her to admit that like just because someone thinks that their life is worth continuing slash their life is like you know that they might not even think that that's the even more tragic thing. They might not even have the ability to slow down enough in life to like process how bad their life is. And I could not get my psychiatrist to admit that there are people out there that have such horrible lives that they're just objectively not worth continuing, regardless of what the person thinks about their own life. And if I can't, I don't know, man. I canceled my next appointment with her because I already have a psychological evaluation from like actual professionals who are meant to diagnose people scheduled for this coming August. But my psychiatrist, I was just like, I'm done talking to her. I can't handle her bullshit, man. It's like if you think that like someone born into sex slavery and who knows nothing besides abuse and misery their entire life, they don't know anything besides pain. The fact that they're going to continue on doesn't mean that they like life. It doesn't mean that they think life's worth living. I mean, even if they do think life's worth living, they don't know anything besides pain. So that's just what life is to them. Like it's like some people should objectively just not live. Like their life is just filled with too much misery. They're literally just generators of horror, and they don't even realize it because it's all they know is horror. It's like, the neutral for them. And I think that's horrible and it's tragic and sadistic that anybody would think that it's acceptable. But for some reason, my psychiatrist is completely cool with it. Like, she's just like, yeah, man, like, some people are born to slavery and they manage to like their life. So therefore, it's good. And I'm like, I cannot process it. Cass says there's a lot of propaganda telling people that life has a lot of worth. Yeah, exactly. And I don't. It's fucking mind melting though.
Yeah, I have to like warn you to get into a psychological evaluation, and if you do, you should be very dishonest because they can put you on an even worse antipsychotic and an even worse antidepressant.
Oh well, for me, this is all voluntary. I didn't. I'm going to psychiatry help and getting evaluation just by my own volition. Uh, she didn't actually even want me to go into evaluation because she said that, like, it might not be useful because I'm like, I smoke weed, so like it's less accurate. But I insisted that, like, there was definitely shit wrong with my brain that has happened before I started smoking weed. So I'm like, yo, chief, like, please, I want an evaluation because I'm pretty positive that I have antisocial personality disorder or something very similar to that. um, Basically psychopathic tendencies where I have cognitive empathy. I can understand when things are bad. I can understand people are in pain and that's wrong to inflict pain on people, but I can't feel pain. I can't feel other people's pain. No one can technically feel other people's pain, but I like truly can't like empathize with other people without like having like a really strong connection to them. Like I actually have to like there's only one person in my life that like I truly ever have like empathized with, I think, and they're dead now. But they committed suicide a few months ago. But basically, in terms of empathy, I don't really have a whole ton of it for other people, unless I like try, and even then, it's like I have to like conjure up like my own pain and relate it to their pain, and basically just feel my own pain again to understand what people are going through. So it's like I'm pretty sure I have like a lot of antisocial aspects to myself, but who knows? I mean, there's that. Plus, there's also like, just like in general, like, I mean, I'm gonna make you all feel a lot more comfortable with your own minds. You're gonna be like, oh wow, I'm actually not fucked up anymore, because I have like the most brutalist shit, like sexual fantasies. Whatever you guys jerk off to, it's probably normal in comparison to what my brain conjures up. Like I'm like macheting people's heads off and shit, like when I'm wanking it. Yeah. So the moral of the story is like you guys are just straight like normal in comparison to me. So it's like my psychiatrist is just like, let's talk about your depression, and I'm like, we could talk about my depression, but I'm pretty sure there's more weird things up in my brain that are like, more important to talk about, doc. But if you want to talk about how I'm sad, go for it. Honestly, I'm pretty sure she just likes to talk about philosophy with me, so she just wants to get paid to talk about philosophy.
So, one of the biggest risk with these, both antidepressants and antipsychotics alike, is anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. And sometimes antidepressants, especially SSRIs, can be worse than antipsychotics. If one can't experience pleasure, that is one of the biggest risks getting anhedonia. You have to if you're taking like two things that give you the can like give you if you take like two sources and both of them can give you anhedonia, then that's not good. But it's good that you haven't gotten anhedonia so far, or maybe you have, but I don't think you mentioned it. So And I'm also sorry about the person you held there. You're muted.
Oh, my bad. I said, can you repeat your question again? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh yeah, it was no question. I was just saying that you're taking two things, uh, like an antidepressant and antipsychotic, and both of those things can give anhedonia. And if one gets anhedonia, there are there are no easy cures. It can be permanent. There are people that has had anhedonia for 10 years, like my friend that has had it for 10 years, and I don't think these. You have to. One should ask oneself, what if these things does nothing? What if you just become someone with anti-personality disorder or whatever it's called? What if you become just the same person with anhedonia on top of it? It's really not.
Yeah.
I feel like I should at least say that much about the risks. And I'm also sorry to hear about the person you have there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, when it comes to them taking their own life, it was probably for the best. They were in a lot of pain, like a lot of pain. They were essayed as a child, and a bunch of horrible shit has been happening in their life. In terms of, they live in South Africa, so they lived in South Africa. So basically, they're a white person living in South Africa, and there's like a little bit of like an ethnic cleansing going on there because people aren't so happy about the history of what white people did to them in that country. So, being a white person in a country where there's like a genocide going, and plus you stack on top of that the whole fact that like she had borderline personality disorder, she has SAH, she had PTSD, dissociative issues, an iron deficiency, so she would basically collapse like on the daily. She couldn't walk around without like basically collapsing from exhaustion. Um, yeah, basically her whole body was fucked and her mind was fucked. Like she spent majority of her days crying and or dissociating and like horror hallucinations. So just tormenting her own self with her own mind. So yeah, I mean, she was a very valuable person. She changed me in like more ways you can imagine. As I said, like I'm fairly antisocial. I used to be way more antisocial than I was now, than I am now. Like I pretty much was like homicidal as all fuck. I pretty much had intentions back in the day to like carry out my mindset. But after talking with her and like becoming good friends with her, and over the course of like 7 years, I've known her for like I knew her for 7 years basically. So over the course of 7 years, we became really good friends, and yeah, I mean, she changed me a lot into like a better person who cares about ethics, who cares about other people's suffering, who cares about animal suffering, and a bunch of things. She's the reason I'm vegan. She's the reason I didn't join the military. She's the reason I started to accept that drug use wasn't very bad and that it's acceptable to do that. Like, she's the reason that like I am who I am, and it's really unfortunate that she took her life in terms of like the productivity that she has brought into the world. Like she was an amazing person who's helped people in so many ways. But when you have that much pain in your life, I mean, I can't fault her for doing what she did. I mean, if like 50% of your time you're not even you're basically just like this amorphous terror that is just manifested. Like, yeah, it's like it's horrible. Like as you said earlier, like if someone is like in like a psychotic state, like they can't really do a whole lot to help out, and that's pretty much where she was at. Like she was basically a broken person, and once her boyfriend basically broke up with her because he was in so much pain, being kind of dragged down with her, he decided, he decided that they were basically just tearing each other apart, which was true. But once he broke up with her, it basically just caused her to spiral, and yeah, she ended up taking her own life on February 7th, 2023. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's tragic, but it's for the best that she's no longer suffering. So yeah, thank you for saying that. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's a tragedy, but it's almost more tragic if she would have lived, because her life was beyond miserable. I mean, I loved her with like my whole soul and being. Like she's beyond like a good person. She was the pinnacle of what it means to be like a virtuous human being. But I don't know, it's not worth having like such a person suffering. Like I don't know. As a consequentialist, it's like it's difficult to accept what she did, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, when you're suffering that much, it's hard to imagine it's worth to continue on, especially in this condition that she was in.
I've also had someone in my life where I've thought that it's not that it's not that it's. I don't know if I feel like saying it today. Maybe another time.
That's fair. You just say whatever you're comfortable with, my dude. Don't feel pressured on for anything on this channel.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check my Snapchat really quickly, just because I'm invited over to. It's just me. I'm gonna ask Devin really quickly what's going on. Yo, Devin, my boy, how's it going? You and Morgan still down to hang out later tonight, or are y'all get a little bit busy with your whole birthday party thing going on? Yeah, invited to hang out with some friends in a little bit here, but I'm not sure if they are still able to hang or not, because they have a birthday party they're going to, and I'm not sure if they got caught up in any of that jazz. But I'm going to continue streaming until I get a response, though. So it's 4 people watching.
That's more than those before.
Yeah, we had the most 2 people at some point during the stream, and now it just kind of doubled out of nowhere. I'm going to post another link in case anybody wants to join the stream. Feel free to do that. If not, yeah, no pressure. I recommend commenting some questions. I mean, I'm basically a free guy for giving advice to like anybody. I give solid advice, life advice here, and just philosophical inquiries. If you have any questions about philosophy, I'm your boy. Same with Seb. He has really good insights on EFILism. So
Something I want to ask you is something that has made me very curious. Why does natalists hate antinatalists so much?
I think it's just in general, people hate people once they say that they ought not to do something that they're doing. Basically, if you accuse someone of being like a bad person or doing bad actions, people will flip on you really fast. And so people generally are like really subjectivist these days, like very egoistic. They want to believe that like, you do you, I do me, everybody leaves each other alone. But the reality is, we're not leaving each other alone. We're tearing each other apart to like keep each other like keep ourselves alive. You know, we're constantly exploiting each other. Or, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to the fact that when people call people out for things, they just get really upset of that. How's it going, Kaz?
Hey, what's up, man? Yo, you good, G?
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
What's other dude's name? Sorry, I forgot.
You can call me Seb. It's
Seb.
short for Sebastian.
Oh, cool. Nice to meet you, Seb.
Nice to meet you too.
So, do you have any questions, by the way? Or, I mean, if you want, I could interview you about veganism a little bit, because I do have some questions about that. But if you have any questions for me, I highly recommend asking them.
Cool. I was just saying, you know, about that pro-mortalism thing. I think pro-mortalism per se is a bit hard to a hard sell for most people, because it's just too taboo. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
very blunt and
Yeah.
a lot to accept.
Yeah, I think what you can get more people on board with is the idea of like euthanasia. You know, like is euthanasia a good thing? And then you could kind of like put it more different. Like you could say like you could give examples of like how most people die, like under what circumstances and how much pain they're dying. And then you could say like, you know, we should all have access to like a peaceful method, because like it's going to take a long time to get it done under the law, like, so we should just have access to it. But even that's a hard sell. But then what I was saying with that is people could just say like they'd have to run through their minds in it, like how much is enough, like how much is too much, sort of thing, before I go through with it, kind of thing. And then it might come into their head that, oh shit, I can really go through with it at any point, like I feel. So well, that's what I was thinking. But I just think even with that, like most people would still have like an unrealistic grasp on how bad dying is, basically. You know, they just think, I'll get through it, I'll deal with it. But when push comes to shove, like people can't really cope with it, and that's the problem. One thing I realized, like I had like a point in my life where I kind of like tried to, you know, rope myself basically, like with the ligature. But what I realized is as soon as the blood stopped running through my brain, I literally just blacked out, and it's like nothing, complete like void basically. And it's kind of like I bet a lot of these peaceful methods are like that. You just literally slip into non-existence in a very like seamless manner. But yeah, the way most people are gonna go in like society, it's probably not gonna be like that. It's gonna be a lot of like torture beforehand before they finally succumb.
Yeah, there are a lot of methods that are essentially instantaneous that like destroy the brain practically right away. And once the brain generates consciousness, so I mean, if you can cut off oxygen to the brain and or destroy the brain relatively quickly, I mean, death is basically like that, just a snap of the finger. But I mean, yeah, as you said, like life is general is not going to be a snap of the finger when you die. So I mean, it's going to be quite a lot worse, which is why suicide is probably the better way to go than unnatural death. It's just the question of when, and you know, convincing people that that is an acceptable form of thing to do. Which, yeah, I mean that, as you said, that's it's still difficult to do in general. I go to a Christian college, so I understand. I mean, I'm trying to sell pro-mortalism to these people, and they don't even buy euthanasia being acceptable. Basically, like half the people don't. So
Shit. Fucking hell. Yeah. We had a mate like at uni, and he died from cancer basically. And I was saying to some mutual friends of ours, like, get him a like euthanasia basically, so he doesn't have to go out like by terminal cancer. And they were like, "Oh fuck you, man, fuck you, that's my friend," and all this shit. And I'm like, shit. So they basically turned on me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they were like, oh, you're a bad guy, basically. Like, so yeah, I couldn't convince them.
are you still friends with them, or because I mean, for me, I'm pretty open about my like mental conditions with my friends, and I mean, I guess maybe it just depends on who you're hanging out with, but I mean, they're generally pretty accepting of like who I am, even though they don't agree with like my positions and think that I'm kind of a little bit fucked up, but they still like me.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Nah, I'm not mates with them actually anymore. Just because of other reasons actually. But the mates that I've got now, they're pretty calm with my beliefs and stuff. Pretty like, yeah, I think they can understand where it's coming from, type thing.
Awesome. Yeah, my friends, they don't agree with my philosophical beliefs very much. So they kind of agree. I mean, a couple of my friends agree with like that life is bad and like full of suffering, but I cannot convince any of them that it's wrong to have children. I don't know why. Like I can convince them that life is bad, but I cannot convince them that even though life is bad, we ought not to inflict a bad situation on someone. Like I don't know why. It's just like it doesn't register in the brain that like we have the right to tell people to not do things that are normal. Like it's weird because like they'll be like, yeah, like we can tell people not to murder, but for some reason things that are in the norm, they don't want to admit that like we have the right to say that those things are wrong and ought not to be done. But
Yeah.
it's probably just because it's so taboo, as you all are saying.
Yeah.
I don't think they can't think life is that bad if they still are non-antinatalists. Can't like despise life that much.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Like they say that I think they're lying to me, honestly. A couple of them are. Like I think my friend Jamie, she definitely BS's me to my face. Like there's no way she actually respects my opinion, but she pretends she does. I'm pretty sure
Shit.
because it's just like one of those things where she likes me as a friend, and then I'm also pretty finna cute, no homo. but yeah, I mean I think she says like she thinks that life is bad, but yeah, if you just look at her disposition and how like she like loves sunsets and just like, oh, everything's so beautiful and blah 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 blah, it's just like she has such a appraisal of life. Like it's I don't know, it's like people she was raised in like a really rich household. Like she like has her house is like 3 stories, like it has like a giant ass basement, a giant ass main floor, and like an upper level. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Wait, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't think about it. She might actually only have 2 levels to her house. I'm thinking about my uncle's house. I think about. Either way, she has a pretty cushy living. So it's like one of those swings where it's like I suspect that she doesn't quite value suffering as much as I think that she does in some moments. But at the same time, it's like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too harsh.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you ask most people, are you happy to be alive, or are you grateful to be alive? They'll answer yes. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like it's very normal. It's like in our nature to be like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm happy, I'm grateful to be here and all that. But then they're not thinking about basically. It's hard to think about never coming into existence once you already exist, basically, and to see it as a negative, not to see it as a negative thing.
Yeah, I don't know how you convince people that, like, because even me, it's like, I will admit that, like, it's a good thing that I exist. It's just not justified to bring that my parents brought me into existence. Like, they were taking a very massive gamble in bringing me into existence. I could have, if I didn't meet Shamira, my friend that killed themselves, if I didn't meet them, I would probably be like a really horrible person, like to this day. Like I would be like a psychopathic person who just doesn't give a shit about anything and would like just be like a dickhead to like everybody, for no
Yeah,
reason. So it's like, it turns out that I am a really good person who's like fighting to reduce suffering. But that was a gamble that they took, and I don't think that gamble was justified. So it's like I can admit that it's a good thing that I exist, but there's so many people that like think that it's hard to think that it's a wrong thing for you to exist, like it's hard to think that it's a bad
yeah,
thing to exist.
yeah.
So many people, I think, it doesn't click in their brain that like even though if they think that they should exist, that they ought still not to exist. Like it's hard to like bridge that gap of like I ought not to I ought to have not been brought into existence, but it's a good thing that I do exist. For some people, for most people,
Yeah,
I think, for most people, I think most people are pretty shitty. So for most people, I think it doesn't really apply. But but for antinatalists, in general, I think most people like think that life is worth continuing, unless they have like extreme levels of depression. But
yeah.
low-key, I got a response back from my mates saying that they just got home and that I'm able to come over there and smoke. But I will be continuing
Sweet.
the live stream again in probably like 3 hours. I imagine they'll probably go to bed by like 10 o'clock, 11. It's currently 8:10 p.m. So I don't think they'll be awake for much more than 2 hours. So I'm gonna duck out of the live stream and end it for a bit here. But I will be starting the live stream again in probably like 2 or 3 hours. If y'all want to join again.
Cool, man. Cool. I might be asleep by then, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no problem.
I'll check. I'll look out for it.
I will be asleep, so I can't join. Unfortunately.
That's
Yeah.
understandable. I mean, you all have a great night or day. I don't know what time zone you're all in, but I mean, take care and have a good one. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too, man. You too, guys.
Take care. Bye bye.
Take care, Seb.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.